Here's what you'll need to do this project. I have a little Mod Podge and a small soft brush. I have my dried pansies, a clean mason jar, a piece of wax paper. So, the first thing I'm going to do is take my little pansy and turn him face down on the wax paper. I do want to, if I can, lift up any of the little leaves that are laying on top of each other and get glue in between, so that I'm sure that everything, once it's applied to the jar, has glue, is sealed, is pressed down as flat as I can get it. So I'm just covering the entire back with the glue, and as you can see, I'm not worrying because I have that waxed paper. And again, I just want to make sure I get a little bit underneath so that I've completely sealed the back side with the glue. And I've decided that I'm going to actually place this one right over the word mason. I'm not too worried about the direction that the flower is in, because I actually want the flowers facing all different directions, and I'm just using my fingers to flatten this down. Now, bubbling will be an issue, so I'm pressing around that center little lumpy area there to see if I can get some of the air out. And this will move on you, and they are very delicate. I can see that I really should put a little bit of glue there, so again, that the entire thing is sealed. And yes, I'm going to end up with glue on my fingers. Lots of different things you could do this with. It's just decoupage, and I just happen to be doing it with pansies. And they're very soft and delicate, but I'm sure you could make one of these lovely jars with all kinds of ideas from your imagination. Now, I'm not just plastering the glue all over the place. I am trying to keep it so that it's only going to the edge of the flower. It's okay going over a little bit, but as you can see right here, there's just a little bit around the edge, because I'm trying to keep the majority of the glass shiny and sparkly and clear, so that when you put your candle in, yes, there's a little bit of blurriness to the edge of the flowers, but for the most part, there's a nice crystal clear glass for the light of your candle to shine through. And I am making sure I want to go over those edges and create an actual seal all the way around. Now that this pansy is applied, if there are any air bubbles, they'll show up in a few minutes. I'm going to let this dry just a little bit so that I can come back in a few minutes and see how it's doing. The glue is no longer sticky on the top part, but probably still somewhat damp underneath, and when I roll my finger across, I can see a little bit of movement. So what I'm doing now is just pressing in the center and then rolling my fingers out towards the edge, so that I can be guaranteed that there's as few air bubbles as possible. Just sealing this up a little bit more. Put a second coat on the outside after I've pressed it as best I can. And again, I'm going slightly over the edge so that there is no air sneaking up underneath. So putting a little extra glue there, trying to make sure that I'm somewhat smooth. And again, on the edge, I'm going to leave that to dry, and maybe put the second coat on these other ones and put the rest of the flowers on, and I'll be back. I have finished putting the pansies onto the glass, and I did attempt to leave the raised parts of the glass as pretty places, left the insignia, ball and mason, you know, pretty much uncovered, so that when the little tea light, even the measurements are inside, that they will add. So I didn't cover the whole thing, just a few to give the indication. And now that that is dried, I am ready to move on to the cover. And when you work with mason jars, of course, you have two pieces. I didn't want to leave these separated. I was also concerned about how the embellishments that I wanted to put on would adhere to the metal. So I took some E6000, glue the pieces together, and then leave them to dry, and I have gessoed the outside of this. So now I'm ready to begin decorating. And what I've decided to do is actually put this ribbon on the edge because I don't want the white showing through. I have here just some fabric craft glue, plastic knife, one of my favorite tools, the Q-tip, and I'm just going to put a little bit of this glue right there. I don't want it to literally leak in big globs onto the ribbon, so I'm going to smooth it out with the Q-tip. Get a little more going around the edge. Again, just nothing fancy, just get this ribbon on here. I'll start right where I left off. Just finish that off like so. It does cover up the white. And now, in order to make it look great, I'm going to be adding this very pretty trim, which I think goes fairly well with the color tones that are being presented by the pansies. And this time I will use some hot glue because now, of course, I have the ribbon to adhere things to. Just get that started, and I've chosen to just have this dangle down a bit over the edge, like so. So I have put the trim all the way around the edge, and now instead of seeing the white underneath, you can see that pretty ribbon shining through. It's okay that this is up because I'm going to be decorating the top. I'm going to be adding some of these wild orchid craft leaves. I actually have 3, these smaller ones too. I'm going to be starting with these 2, and I've already cut 3 of each of those 2 a little bit shorter so that I can work with them more easily. And I'm basically just going to put down some glue, press it in, actually hold it with the gun, doesn't hurt for a second, and try to scatter them around a little. And now I have taken some burlap, very messy stuff, It's little threads all coming off, but that is very in right now, the rustic look. So I've just cut some strips about an inch wide and about, I would say, 4 inches long. And I am, again, not going to be picky. I'm just going to fold them over and begin to place those on the cover as well. A little glue on the bottom, a little glue on the top, press and hold. Flowers, which again I hope are mimicking the colors of the pansies. And so I have these, they have more yellow in them than the camera is showing, but a little bit of green and this nice rusty color. And the pansies have a bit of purple in them. So these purple ones. And I'm going to add those. Start with these larger ones. And just, I think I'll begin with 3. And now I'm going to take these brown monotone leaves, and they're smaller than the other ones. I'm going to start to just finish it off, just get an idea of where I want to place them. Maybe shorten that stem just a wee bit. Just a little drip of the glue, and get those in. But I did want to consider one other touch, which I'll be right back with. Alright, if you haven't seen these before, these are pan pastels, and they're like those Craypass pastel crayons that we've worked with in the past, but these are really neat. Very creamy, very smooth, and I'm going to take the cover off so that the glare doesn't get you. You apply them with these little foamy sponges that look like makeup brushes. And they're really great with the mulberry paper and the wild orchid crafts. And you know, this could be a finished product, but in looking at the real pansies, you know, not bad. I've done a decent job at sort of blending the colors the way that the flower is, but I thought it might be a nice touch and sort of tone things down even if I took some of these pan pastels and applied them. Alcohol inks and glitter and all that can be used, but I'm keeping this a very rough, rustic look. So I was thinking that possibly some of these greens, certainly not the more turquoise looking one, and maybe not that lime green because we have some of that color, but this forest green looks to me, and these things, all you do is touch them. You just touch them and you can apply them. So if I can get the camera to focus for you. You just touch. That's it. And you can, add a little bit of depth. And you can even get in there and really create some depth with these. They're just lovely. You can seal them afterwards, but I find that if you don't use too much in the first place and you really rub them into your paper, and hopefully people aren't going to be, wiping their face or something with these, I may just give it a quick spray over once with hairspray, believe it or not, to seal it. Works just fine. And now I'm just going to take a little dab of this brown and maybe go and put some depth into the orangey tones. Just a little bit. You only have to touch them once, and I still have some glue. I will definitely be cleaning this up a bit. But I just wanted to show you how this can add some depth to the color of your project. And it's so easy. I did just, take the plunge and get this pack because they're not completely inexpensive. And I love them. I make my own flowers and use them. And I'm not so sure. I will give it a shot. Just one little touch of that purple because it's very dark. Just again, here and there, to add a tiny bit of depth. And possibly one little bit of black on some of the tips of these leaves. It's not an enormous difference, but anything that looks a little bit too flat now has some depth to it. And I'm attempting not to touch the burlap. I don't really want it on the burlap. Okay, and I don't want to get too crazy with this, but I do want to add a little bit of tone down that orangey, just with a bit of the brown. And they actually blend really well, so if you don't like what you see, you can go back just a touch here and there. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Someone might want to come back and add some sparkle to that, but essentially there is my version of a rustic flowery top to go, or candle topper on top of our pansy candlelight. I have one other thing that I would like to put on there. I have just taken some lace, and it's a looks like a tea dyed color. It might be nice to have a front, right? So I'm going to pick where this would fit the best, I think, just so we have a little lace mixed in. Makes it a bit more shabby and interesting in textures, and I like that spot, so I'm going to just take a bit of glue and apply my little lace bow. There we go. Almost looks like a foresty floor, which is just what I was going for. That is a finished project. Of course, I will need to light it with a candle and see what it looks like. And of course, when it does have the candle, you know, you'll see the glass. You put the cover to the side. It looks very pretty there. So here it is lit up. And as I said, you can see that leaving lots of space leaves lots of room for sparkle. And the pansies look just beautiful, all lit up. And our topper sitting right beside it. And this is easy to do. You can do it with any flowers. Of course, you're gluing them on the outside. You're not leaving anything over the edge to catch fire. And you are putting the topper away from the flame. So, just a lovely little rustic treat. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you try to make one yourself. I'm going to be placing some in Etsy, and hopefully I'll be doing a couple different color versions of this. In the meantime, I thought these were perfect harvest colors, and try your hand at some of these pan pastels to change the colors of your wild orchid craft flowers. And take a mason jar and make a nice Thanksgiving table decoration. These would be great for rustic weddings. Anyway, I can think of a million places, including just to warm up your home atmosphere through the holidays, that these would be lovely for yourself or as a gift for somebody. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it inspired you to think about doing something yourself. In the meantime, this is Kathy from Huckleberry Herbs and Art. God bless everybody.